Welcome to Southern West Virginia ArtsCast, presented by Theater West Virginia. Before we begin, we take you to a WTWV news update with Gail Oakes, live in front of the Raleigh Playhouse.
Theater West Virginia presents the first annual Artists for Artists Spring Talent Fair. This event will be the launching point for Theater West Virginia's Artists for Artists initiative. This is to be a series of fundraisers with the goal of funding career opportunities for up-and-coming local artists and for guest artists to take part in our vibrant art scene. As the area's longest-standing arts organization, we feel it is our duty to cultivate opportunities for homegrown talents here in Southern West Virginia, while also fostering fellowship with the global artistic community who wish to share their talents with Theater West Virginia. Now, back to Mr. Nick Urich for how local artists can get involved.
Thank you, Gail. Theater West Virginia is seeking up-and-coming artists and entertainers of all ages and experience levels for our first ever Artists for Artists Spring Talent Fair. This family-friendly event will take place on Friday, April 5th in Uptown Beckley, with an artwork reimagined workshop at the Word Park Gazebo on Neville Street, and will continue on in the evening with an all-ages mixed-media open mic at Sir Walter's in the Raleigh Playhouse. So, if you're a musician or singer with a song in your heart, a poet with words in your soul, a comedian with laughs to share, a visual artist who would like to promote your work or donate a piece to our silent auction, or any creative spirit whose talent hasn't been mentioned here, then take the stage and share a bit of your artistic journey with us. This is your time. This is your space. This is your place to shine. Artists can sign up in advance at theaterwestvirginia.org. Early sign-up is recommended, but we will accommodate as many show-up, go-up time spots as we possibly can. We'll also be seeking pre-show entertainers at this event for paid performances at our outdoor dramas this summer at Grandview. Funds raised at this event will go directly to Theater West Virginia's efforts to create work opportunities for up-and-coming artists in our summer company and throughout the year. So come be a part of a new era for the arts in Southern West Virginia and sign up today. Hello, and welcome to Southern West Virginia's ArtsCast, presented by Theater West Virginia. Over the last 64 years, Theater West Virginia has made itself the hub of the region's artistic scene, largely through the many arts organizations it's associated with and even spawned over the last decades. Here with us, we have the founder and current artistic director of one of those organizations, the West Virginia Dance Company. Please welcome Toneta Akers-Toler.
Thank you, Nick. I'm happy to be here with you.
Well, thank you for joining us today, Toneta. Now, as I understand it, West Virginia Dance Company began in the late 1970s as the Appalachian Dance and Music Ensemble. So could you tell us more about those early days and how it began?
Sure. Basically, I was in my last year at the conservatory at Point Park College in Pittsburgh, and the lovely Betty Benjamin, whose husband was in charge of the acting division at Theater West Virginia, John Benjamin, asked me, what would you like to do when you graduate from college next year? And I said I would love to start my own dance company because I had had a chance to work with the Alvin Ailey Company. Yeah. And Alvin Ailey used art as positive protest and changed things in the 60s through dance. And worked with the whole theories of Dr. Martin Luther King, and I was fascinated by that, and I loved working at the theater in the summers and wanted to come home, and I wanted to do stories and movements about our West Virginia culture and people and history. So that's basically how it was started. And we had wonderful musicians that worked at the theater. One was your father, John Urich, that I had a chance to work with many absolute wonderful years. And Dan Manning, who was an actor at the theater, and different musicians that they knew that would work. Sometimes we had 4 musicians, sometimes 5. So it was 4 dancers, your mother and myself, and Debbie and Jenny Donaldson, who were from Morgantown, West Virginia, but they actually stopped halfway through their dance degree at the Cincinnati Conservatory of Dance and Music to work here with us. So we had 4 women that started and 5 live musicians. So that's, we just, we would, the 4 lady dancers would divide into 2 cars, and we would just travel to schools and ask if they would have us, give us a job to come and work in their schools, and just tried to seek performances anywhere. So it was a group of people that there was no regular paychecks or anything. We all set up, especially the dancers, set up schools, and still to this day, our dancers, 48 years later, all work in different dance schools in a radius of an hour from here, and they work as guest choreographers, as guest artists in the area. It was wonderful because the connection with Theater West Virginia, we would work all summer when it was 3.5 months, and with the summer theater, and then when fall came, we would go right into the dance company, do that all year, and pretty much some of us, I would have recital on a Sunday afternoon, and the very next morning start the summer theater.
Wow.
So it was just a lovely time. Those connections with our company and people we met through working at the theater.
Well, and the symbiosis of the 2 organizations seems to have been kind of integral to building both of them to this day. So could you tell us a little bit more, too, about kind of where West Virginia Dance Company has performed, not just from those early days, but how it's expanded? What you were saying reminds me a lot of the ripple effect that the arts can have, and I think of how many careers were launched that way, and how many, like you said, schools and companies have started because of that. So I guess I'd like you to elaborate a little bit on that wide-reaching effect.
Basically, the dance company for many, many, many years, it was you write grants and you have a hope and a dream, and you just have to have that solid core inspiration of this is what I'm gonna do, and you just do it and hope it works out. And honestly, I don't know how it's always worked out, but for some reason it has. And this is the 48th year, and basically now we have a reputation after it took all these years, but we have traveled the dance company to every county in West Virginia and to 14 other states, and we went to Brazil once, and we've had over 120 people, and many of those dancers did work in the summers until the state pulled the funding, and some of us just had to get other jobs other than the theater. And it was very heartbreaking because not only did I feel like I grew up when Jerry Rose gave me a chance to work there as a young dancer, but I got to know you as a young child and your family. My son grew up working at the theater, and I feel like those experiences, you all and myself had a chance to work with people from everywhere. And I always say my child even though he lives in Beckley, is a city boy because of the rich experiences that we all had from the people that gathered during the summers at Grandview State Park, now National Park.
Well, and I feel like that really is how you build an art scene in a town like this and an area like this through the generations too. Is it's a series of people giving each other chances,
Absolutely.
and two to much like you were talking about John Benjamin, to help grow each other's endeavors. So I think that the dance company has been a beautiful example of that. I would like you to talk a little bit more about how dance is integral to the culture of our area, and I guess what are some of the ways that West Virginia Dance Company portrays that culture in their work?
Well, I believe because, as I spoke about, definitely a choreographic mentor. I did get to be in the room with him once when I was at Ailey's in class, Alvin Ailey, but he is sort of like a choreographic mentor to me and human. And I feel like we finally have the title just West Virginia Dance Company because that's what I want to nourish and tell the stories about. And we do every concert, we have something that connects back to something in West Virginia. As a matter of fact, this poster that's between us, we have this amazing visual artist uh, from Barber County. Her name is Kylie Payne, and does beautiful artwork. She designs our posters, and Perry Bennett Photography. Uh, these are his photographs, and she just took them and mixed and matched them like a puzzle. And this is from a piece called Sketches of Fall. And there was a celebration of Pearl Buck's birthday, and actually your entire family and my family was involved in that. And this piece is called Sketches of Fall, and it will be in the program also.
Wonderful.
At our performance on the 16th at 7:30 at Woodrow Auditorium. And it was just basically from Pearl Buck's book, My Several Worlds, and her writing about the first time she saw fall in West Virginia. And, people come from all over the world to southern West Virginia to see our beautiful mountains in the fall.
Well, that's true, and you think about something like Bridge Day. That bridge isn't just packed with locals.
Oh, absolutely not.
And now, what you're saying too, it's a strong reminder of the way that different art forms integrate one another, particularly in the performing arts. You're talking about this visual artist whose work has added and even inspired to some degree this work, and I think that it lets you know that it really does take all of us, all skill sets, to really create the best version of a piece.
Well, I personally love the word collaborators because, really the highlight of my life was last year when my son was old enough. He has his master's degree in music, and he was old enough to compose music now for me to create to A Story of West Virginia. And we have two other, of course, your father, John Urich, did a lot of work with me and creations for the company specifically because he was a very important part of that, but also on the summer musical theater we worked together. And we have Dr. Richard Grimes, who was from Charleston, West Virginia, who now lives in Boston. And he has a group called Cordis, and they travel around the country.
Yes. I had the pleasure to see Cordis with the Beckley Concert Association. Brought them to the Woodrow Wilson Auditorium in, I believe it was 2011.
And I did not know Richard then at all. And he found out about our company in Florida and was fascinated to hear the history. So he is absolutely one of our top composers now. And we've done a lot of work with him. We've done work about the history of glass in West Virginia.
Wow.
And also, you're so correct about different things. We've had actors be a part of our show before. Adam Booth, who is a national traveling storyteller from West Virginia, does work with us as well. So it definitely all forms of communication, of as in movement as communication, music, sound as communication, visual arts as communication, um, reading actors, even though they're speaking, just their movement as communication. I love to work with all different types of people. And I'm sure that a lot of just realizing that collaboration was from working at as a young person at Theater West Virginia with incredible actors, incredible singers. Um, Jerry Rose is the choreographer. you know.
Well, and I feel like too, outdoor theater especially does, build those wide skill sets too in people, and really put them to the test under the elements as well. Kind of picking up sort of where we were with that last topic. Could you talk a little bit more about the ways that West Virginia Dance Company presents our state in your performances, and particularly how that may resonate with audiences, far and wide throughout the country and even around the globe?
Well, you're never sure how other places will react to stories about West Virginia. Um, I know my favorite solo that ever performed was choreography by your mom, Barbara Urich, who did a piece to a group that played live for us as well, Trapezoid.
Ah, yes.
And it was called For the Sliding of Me. And so, from the very beginning, we've created works about West Virginia. And I think that besides, abstract works like this work, Sketches of Fall, we have done 3 series of work about the history of West Virginia and coal mining, because it is true that our West Virginia coal and the steel from Pittsburgh built all the cities, that they would not be built as we change from agrarian culture into industrial world, and also many other places in the world as well. And of course, since that time, we've learned many things about coal, and we did a piece about the turn of the century, and the history of coal mining and people and immigrants and all that history, and how we ended up with the people that we have in West Virginia currently as well. And then we did a piece during the union protests, and used music by people like Hazel Dickens. And I'm sure I'm leaving out many people. And then a lot of people said, why don't you do a piece that has to do with, what we're currently like in this southern West Virginia coal climate. And that was the piece that we did last year. It was called Sweet SUITE, West Virginia, in I think it was 6 chapters, if I'm remembering correctly right now. And it was basically, I teach you at the West Virginia Governor's Honors Academy. I think you might have attended that yourself, didn't you?
I did, yes. I attended that in 2004.
So those students, not that they haven't been involved in the arts as well, but a lot of those students are people that thoughts are going in to be lawyers, doctors, engineers, that type of thing. So anyways, what I have learned from those students over the last decade when I had to take that job was that they feel like they have this huge need to leave West Virginia. If they're going to succeed, they have to leave West Virginia, and then there's so many young people here that feel like they can't ever leave here. They just it's rural, and basically because of some of the industries that have gone down, there's just a lot of things happening here in the negative. So the piece is kind of telling the story of those things. So that's really what we want to always be a part of, is what sort of things can we tell the world through movement language, through sound/music language, through using the costumes as visual art, the props as visual art. What can we tell the world about where we live and who we are, because we're called the West Virginia Dance Company.
Well, it's really interesting, something that occurs to me too, when you talk about people feeling like they need to get out. I think that a lot of West Virginia stories really tap into, that classic archetype of the hero's journey and, the call to adventure. And yeah, I think it is a very human thing to want to get out and see the world. And I think, then the other end of that story is, to put it in Tolkien terms, coming back to the Shire. And I think that's also an essential part of a lot of West Virginia stories too, is returning to find that it's like no place in the world as well.
And that's exactly what the piece was about.
Beautiful.
And I have to say, part of the piece was not just wanting to find out about adventures, other places. It was taking a look around and seeing the poverty that we're going through now. And of course that happened in the 60s as well. Many people did not want to leave, and they felt they had to for survival. And that's so much of the music that I used, it was all about that, how you can leave West Virginia, but West Virginia never leaves you. But I feel like there's a difference in the young people today wanting to leave because they feel like they just financially will not succeed if they're here or whatever. And that's part of the story, is to speak to them too and have them take a holistic look around.
Yeah. Well, and I think too that is part of the ebb and flow too of how a local culture builds, is
absolutely,
the people coming and going and what they bring and what they take out. Well, we're about out of time for today, Toneta, so
okay.
I want to thank you again, Toneta, for coming on our podcast today. Can you say one more time, tell us about our upcoming performance?
Sure. We are West Virginia's dance company, and we travel, but we are Southern West Virginia's dance company. So many people immediately go, oh, you're located in Charleston. No, we're located in Beckley in Southern West Virginia, and we'd really appreciate people taking the time to come and see our performances. We have one on March the 16th at 7:30 at Woodrow Wilson Auditorium, and there'll be 7 pieces, very different. We have a world-renowned choreographer, Jerry Houlihan, who's the face of the American Dance Festival, which is a world dance festival, who now loves our company, and comes to work with us every year now. So her work is so much fun to see, and it ends the program. And it's just going to be a delightful evening. And as you can tell from the poster, the dancers are athletes. They're wonderful dance artists, and we just hope to have support of our folks and these young people that audition and move here. It would be lovely to see the community come together to support them in their work, because we're really ambassadors for Beckley, Southern West Virginia, and all of West Virginia.
That was beautifully put, Toneta. I thank you again.
Thank you
and
so much.
Once again, you can catch West Virginia Dance Company performing at Woodrow Wilson Auditorium on March 16th. Visit wvdanceco.com. That's wvdanceco.com. thank you again, Toneta.
You're so welcome. Can I say one last thing?
Yes, one last thing.
We do have a Facebook page, and we also have Instagram, and I hear that the young folks are going more for Instagram, but if people could support us by being a part of our Facebook and Instagram page, it would really help us as well.
Excellent. And what's the handle on the Instagram page?
I don't take care of that. I don't know.
All right, we'll go ahead and get that, and we'll put that on the screen at the end of the episode. Well, thank you again, Toneta.